We're helping you set your lineups for week one fantasy football rosters, and we're breaking down the wide receivers here to help. SI fantasy analyst Michael Fabiano and Washington beat reporter Chris Russell. Fabs, your start and sit report, it's world famous. We're focusing on the wide receivers. Your start of the week at the wide receiver position is Terry McLaurin. Why do you like McLaurin's matchup against Philly?
Well, number one, this game looks like it could be very favorable from a game script perspective. If Philadelphia is out front, McLaurin and the Washington football team are going to throw the football a ton. And last year, no team in the National Football League allowed more points to receivers lined out wide than Philadelphia. Now, I know that the Eagles added Darius Slay, but he's not guaranteed to shadow McLaurin. I feel like he is a tremendous start. Wide receiver, too, in week one.
Chris, I know the Washington football team, their receiving core leaves a lot to be desired. McLaurin really is just going to get peppered with targets from Dwayne Haskins. What are you expecting to see from the second year pro?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Bill Fabs, I think we all expect Terry McLaurin to go over 1,000 this year, maybe 8, 9 touchdowns, somewhere in that range as the true number one guy. But remember, he's no longer a surprise to the rest of the NFL. I'll take you back to this year or this point last year, week one at Philadelphia. McLaurin had a really long touchdown bomb on a deep post route and should have had two if Case Keenum didn't overthrow him. Now, he was going against a weak secondary that's had a lot of changes, and most notably, Darius Slay is now in. Ronald Darby, who is with Philadelphia, is with Washington, and he's probably their top corner. And a couple other guys that Terry beat in that game are no longer in Philadelphia. So it'll be really interesting to see this week how the matchups go. I mean, you would expect McLaurin versus Slay and that to be a pretty good matchup. So I don't know if McLaurin's going to have a huge numbers day, but certainly he's expected to have a monster year for this offense.
Some of the other receivers on Fabs' list that you want to start include Cortland Sutton versus the Titans and Deshaun Jackson in that game that we're talking about right now versus Washington. Fabs, let's go over to the players that you want to sit this week. I'm surprised that I'm seeing Devante Parker and Marquise Brown. I'm really hyped up on Marquise Brown this year. Why you're not using him for week one?
Yeah, I don't like the matchup starting off with Parker. So I get it. Last year, Parker was bananas good in the second half of last year, including a week 17 game where he burned Stephon Gilmore for over 21 fantasy points. I think Gilmore is going to remember that game and want to exact a little revenge. And also, overall, the Patriots gave up around 15 fantasy points per game to receivers who lined out wide. So typically, they were pretty tough. And remember also that all of Parker's big games came without Preston Williams, who is expected to be back. And as for Marquise Brown, I like him as a sleeper slash breakout candidate as well. In 2 games against Cleveland, though, last year, I mean, his numbers were not that good. He scored 7.8 fantasy points combined. And I feel like the Browns are going to be able to contain him in this contest. Also, keep in mind that if the Ravens push out to a big lead in this game, well, they're going to lean on the run in the second half, which means less of Lamar Jackson throwing the football and less of Marquise Hollywood Brown in this contest. So he is a fade for me this week, but I feel like better things are come for Hollywood.
Thank you for that great insight, Chris and Fabs. For more of Michael Fabiano's start and sit wide receivers, check out the full article and Fabs' updated week one rankings. Go to SI.com, get that membership to our Fantasy Plus.